Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby, and here with me is Jesse Tyler Ferguson of Take Me Out. And Jesse, you've appeared on Broadway numerous times before, but this is your first Tony nomination, which must feel pretty great, I would imagine. Walk us
Yeah.
through that morning. What was it like to see your name up there?
Well, I've been in this business for 25 years, and I've never been nominated for a Tony Award. Just to a quick story, Rachel Dratch was she basically calls me her lifeboat on these events. She's just like clinging to me at every moment because we've been old friends. And we were at the Tony luncheon the other day, and she goes, "What is this? What happens here? Do we get a certificate?" I was like, "I have no idea." And she goes, "You've never been to this?" I said, "No, this is my first time." So it's just because I've been around forever, people assume that I know what I'm doing. I have no idea, and I'm just thrilled that this is happening. Yeah, the morning of the Tony nominations, I was dead asleep because I had put myself to bed the night before with some NyQuil. I had a horrible stomach virus, and not to get too graphic, but had been throwing up the night before, so I was not feeling great. And Justin woke me up with the news, my husband Justin, and I fell back asleep after he told me. And then when I woke up again, I was certain that that was all a dream. So I had to actually go online, and I think I actually might have even gone to Gold Derby to see if I had been nominated or if that was just like a crazy thing that happened in a fever dream. So yeah, it was a crazy day.
Yeah, it's real. It's definitely real. And, well, speaking of our Gold Derby predictions, I was so pleased because as I was putting predictions in, I was like, oh, there's so many great performances in this. I hope,
Yeah,
there's room for a lot of people. And there's three of
yeah,
you in this category, which
I know.
is hard to pull off for a show. It must feel very great to share with
I
your
know.
co-stars.
It really does. Ironically, I've been here before with Modern Family.
Yeah.
We had years where the entire adult cast was nominated, and then that adult cast consisted of four guys and two women. So it's like, I was with three other co-stars, and it's what I find so great about it. People always ask, well, does it like make you competitive, or do you feel like there's like rivalry between you? For me, and maybe it's just because I'm a person who loves being in ensemble shows, it just means that I'm a part of a strong group of people and that I am surrounded by the best, and that makes me really happy. So to see both Michael and Jesse on that list with me, and it could have been filled multiple times by other people from our cast, I believe. It's just it feels very gratifying, and it feels earned, and I'm just thrilled that there are three of us. It's really cool, and also we get to like experience it together.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
And we last talked during the pandemic, and I remember you saying, I just hope that this comes true,
Yeah.
because who knew when Broadway was going to return again. After all that time, what was the energy like when you all could finally step back into rehearsals for this?
Yeah. I mean, I think for the first few days, it sort of felt like, is this really going to happen? I had PTSD a little bit. Like, we were in rehearsal for this, and Broadway was shutting down slowly around us. And I was heartbroken, and it was hard for me to work on the play because I didn't want to. You have to pour your entire self into something like this when you're working on it. And I was protecting myself, and I wasn't able to fully give myself over to the process because I was protecting my emotions. So when we came back, I was sort of, I gave it a few days before I like really like dove in, because it's really happening. Are the walls really going to stay up? But also we had been waiting for so long, and we all stuck with it. And so to come together, the entire cast, even our understudies, stayed with it, and the entire design team. I mean, we all came back to this project because it meant that much to us. And so that first day, finally being able to be in the same room with one another after, almost a year and a half apart, was really profound. And what a beautiful way to start the process over again, to sort of, start over together completely.
It's pretty unprecedented because you will most likely, well, let's hope anyway, not have this much prep time for a play ever again.
Yeah.
So what do you think that kind of time sitting with it did for your performance? How did that affect it?
Well, I mean, I had basically, when we were rehearsing this before, I was probably like 90% off book. I mean, a lot of these characters have kind of, I have huge monologues.
Yeah.
Several characters have monologues, but like mine are really quite long. And so I had, tackled them from the get-go. And Nathan Lane is one of my heroes. And, I got to work with him obviously a lot on Modern Family, but I know him first and foremost from theater. And he would always start every rehearsal process completely off book. So I was trying to Nathan Lane it. And I didn't quite get there, but I was pretty much off book on our first rehearsal. And then the pandemic happened. And I told myself I would revisit this piece once a week so it would stay in my memory, and all that hard work I had put into it wouldn't go away. And then it became too heartbreaking for me to look at it, because I was just, I couldn't, like I said, give myself over to it. And it was just, seeing those words on the page was just too devastating, because I didn't know if we'd be able to do this again. So I let it go. And it was not until Broadway kind of officially reopened that I was able to pick up the script again and look at it. But when I did come back to it, whether I'd wanted to or not, I had been marinating in that part for, a year, and it had been in my subconscious. And so, yeah, I came back to it as a different person, but also there was depth to what I was thinking about in ways I never would have earned or gained unless I was in a 2-year run of a show. I did spelling bee for so long on Broadway, and I think a year and a half. And, I feel like my performance in spelling bee is what I got to start. The last performance in spelling bee is what the day one of Take Me Out felt like. I had just been with this character for so long. So, yeah.
That's
Definitely
a pretty unique feeling. Yeah. I was wondering if there was something else in your subconscious, because many people associate this role with Dennis O'Hare, who won the Tony for it in the original production, which I know you saw. So how did you set about sort of making your own stamp on this role?
Not a ton of people know this, but I was, well, now everyone's going to know, watches this, but I was incredibly intimidated. And I dealt with a lot of, imposter syndrome when I was working on it, because his performance was vividly still in my memory. And, I know that people who are coming to this play now, there's a lot of people who are seeing it for the first time. That, I actually never saw this in New York the first time around, and so happy to see it now. And then there's another group of people that are I saw it, and I know that they remember that performance as well as I do. And so my job was to find out who my Mason was and carve a new path for him. And, a lot of times it was doing the exact opposite of what I remember Dennis doing. I chose to take a lot of the comedy out of the first act and make him more pragmatic and make him more analytical, so that in the second act, when he blossoms and he falls in love with the game, I could infuse a little bit more of myself and become a little bit more, I felt it was Mason also coming into his own as well. And so I think that was something that was unique, and maybe not necessarily in the first production, but Dennis O'Hare laid the groundwork for this character, and he did it beautifully. And I know that the part was created around him as well. I know that it was a partnership with him and Richard Greenberg. So I'm reaping the benefits of all their hard work. And it's the part is such a gift. He has beautiful dialogue and glorious monologues. And, so if you honor that and you play the truth of it, I think so much of the work is already being done for you. But yeah, I love my version of Mason. I think, it took a long time for me to figure him out. And I figured that out through the rehearsal process, and then again through the preview process. And I'm still kind of tinkering with him. And that's also why I love doing theater. It's that long sort of process that you get to work on something for such a deep amount of time.
I think probably my favorite part with the language you get is that monologue about the democratic nature of baseball and how there's, everyone has equal opportunity. It's just so unbelievably beautiful, the words there. What is it like to stand solo on a stage and get to perform that?
That monologue is obviously what I remembered most from the production that I saw 20 years ago. And revisiting it, when I got offered this role, I sat down on the park bench and reread the play, and I just cried when I read that monologue. And it's also what Mason can't do. That's not a place where he's being analytical, and he's being pragmatic about it, and he's sort of trying to figure out the logistics of this game. And he's a numbers guy, so it's not a place for him to be emotional, at least in my version. So I was being up there and navigating that monologue with an audience who's perhaps hearing it for the first time is such a gift, you know, to hear them sigh at certain lines. And it's all Richard Greenberg. Again, like he gave me this language, and he's the one to blame for all of those sighs and those gasps and those that I get during that speech. It's all him. And and for those of you who aren't going to be able to see the play, I highly encourage you to look it up. I'm sure it's online somewhere. Look up that monologue. It is just beautiful. And even if you don't love baseball, it means so much. It's just so meaningful and so deep and so beautifully stated.
Well, I think that's one of the, you know, the most incredible impacts of it is like, I haven't played baseball since Little League in middle school, maybe elementary school. And at the end of that monologue, it's like, oh, wow, I have to go watch some baseball. Did you kind of have that experience as an actor in it?
For sure. I mean, it's, I don't know if I need to run off and watch baseball. I'm not a huge baseball fan. I'm falling in love with the game of baseball through this character. I love the way he speaks about it. We got to take a private tour of Yankee Stadium, our entire cast, and I was very excited to go. I was happy to go. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity. But after I got there and after we spent some time on the field, we actually got to stand on the field. I was overwhelmed. And I'm not a baseball guy, but it's a very profound experience, and I understood how he got swept up in it.
Yeah, and the reactions from the audience, I would imagine, must feel more pronounced because you're in the haze, which is so kind of delightfully intimate for a Broadway house. Is that different from your normal Broadway experience?
Yeah, I mean, like I've played the Gershwin Theater, which is the largest house on Broadway. I've played the Circle and the Square, which is very intimate, and then in the Round is where I did Spelling Bee. And then when I did Fully Committed, it was at the Lyceum, which is a pretty big house with, I think, 3 balconies. So the haze feels so intimate. It's the smallest theater on Broadway, and I love seeing shows there, and I know what it feels like to sit in those seats, although they are very cramped. It's some of the smallest rows on Broadway as well. But yeah, it's a play that really benefits from intimacy, and you know, I love acting on film and television. It's what I've gotten to do for the past 12 years. So there's something that I get to bring out a few of those skills because the audience is so much closer, and you know, I don't have to play like, you know, it's like the Hollywood Bowl, which is also where I've done some theater. That's a tough venue to do theater in.
Yeah, I would imagine.
On a jumbotron, yeah. So it's nice to be in a small space, yes.
And a lot of your material with this play is with Jesse Williams, and I love the way you kind of, your personalities bounce off one another is really fun to watch. What is it like doing those moments with him? There's a lot of comedy, I think, to milk out of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're really the odd couple. I mean, even just, you know, seeing us standing together, like, how are these two people friends? I mean, I've known Jesse for a while, just from both being on, you know, the same network. You know, we would end up at different events together in LA, and I've always admired him greatly. But I didn't know how he would be in a rehearsal room, and he is, I mean, he's just great. He's a theater actor. He asks all the right questions, and he's so vulnerable, and he's just such a great guy. I just fell in love with him as a person, which I think also, you know, reflects on stage. I just really enjoy being with him on stage, and I feel very safe with him. And you're right, on everything. I think there's very little that I don't do with him. I have monologues to the audience, or I'm with Jesse Williams and I have a brief moment with Patrick Adams at the end of the play, but that's it. I don't work with any of the other actors in the show. So you know, my performance really hinged on him as well, and his ability to show up, and he certainly showed up. And I love watching him like find comedy. He gets so tickled when he gets to laugh because he's known for doing drama, and he's really funny, and he gets where the laughs are, and then it's fun playing with him on stage for sure.
Yeah. Well, I recently went down a little bit of memory lane. I'd love to drag you there with me because both you and Lea DeLaria are on Broadway again this season.
Across the street, yeah.
Yes, and I mean, your On the Town performance together is one of my favorites to go back and watch.
Yeah.
And it's, if you think about the two of you back then to where you are now and Take Me Out, like, how do you think you've evolved the most as an actor in that time? Was something
Oh
like
my
Take Me
God.
Out ever, did you think that was going to be in the cards for you back then?
No. I only wanted to do musicals. Like I had no interest in plays or Shakespeare, which I've been lucky enough to do at the Delacorte Theater. Yeah, Leah and I met doing On the Town at the Delacorte Theater in 1997. So this is our 25th anniversary of being friends and being professional actors. And now we're like celebrating that by being across the street from one another on 44th. And I what have I learned? I'm subtlety. I think I remember like, I saw, I don't know what you were watching when you looked at a performance of us, but we were on the Rosie O'Donnell show and I'm like, ooh, that is a big performance I'm giving for a camera.
Well, it was
small studio
for the
audience.
theater.
I know. I'm a totally different person than I was back then. But man, what a way to start a career at the Delacorte Theater, directed by George Wolfe, with Leah, who was such a powerhouse and remains to be such a great friend of mine.
Yeah. Well, you have actually performed on the Tonys before, but this will be your first time as a nominee there. What are you kind of most excited for about this new version of a Tony experience?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm just so happy we can all gather again and be amongst that community. It's a group of people that means so much to me. I mean, it's just a different thing when I've been lucky enough to be nominated for Emmys, but I've always wanted to be nominated for a Tony Award. And I've sat in that audience as a presenter or as someone who's performed at the Tony Awards, and I've watched my friends get them. And I've dreamed of the day where it's my category, and I get to wonder if I'm going to be able to get up on stage. So it's just it's a big moment for me. I think, my character says at the end of Take Me Out, don't diminish it. It would be too ungrateful. And I keep reminding myself that because I can tend to say, oh, awards don't matter. This is not why I do it. And that's true. But it is a profound thing, and it is meaningful. And I'm very excited to celebrate that night, no matter what happens, and just be amongst those other honorees. I mean, my category is full of very good actors, and I cannot believe my work's being recognized alongside them.
Well, I hope you have an immense amount of fun this year sitting there watching as a nominee. Thanks so much for talking Take Me Out.
Thanks, Sam.
Everyone who's out there watching, make sure you subscribe to Gold Derby. Stay with us throughout this Broadway season. Jesse, thanks so much.
Thank you.